Well, here we are. Welcome to Point of Disorder. I'm Julie.
I'm Gina.
And I'm Jeremy, producer Jeremy on the show.
Welcome, Jeremy.
Thank you. It's
Jeremy's
good to be back.
filling in for Adrian today, who's with her kiddos, last day of school stuff and all. So thank you for stepping in.
Glad to be here. Things feel very bad.
Yes. Well, first, let's tell everybody where they might recognize your beautiful face from.
I am from the Head in the Office podcast. You should all go like, follow, subscribe on all platforms. Also like, follow, subscribe this podcast on all platforms. We're everywhere now. And glad to be back.
So let me ask you, are you guys, like Julie and I, wake up each morning checking to see if we're under military occupation or not on your phones?
I unfortunately, and I try to make it so I don't do this, but almost every morning I wake up and I start scrolling on Twitter to see what's happening. I need to stop doing that. It's really bad for the mental health.
It's not good for your brain. I have my husband come in every morning and make sure that I'm not. So he gets up before me and he literally walks in before he goes to work to see me laying there with my phone like this, and I'm always yelled at. But thank you so much for joining us. It is a really somber day today, I have to say. It's been a fucking crazy few days, but I think the thing. Well, first of all, let's talk about what's going on. Gina, how are you seeing what's going on at the moment in LA? It started in LA last Friday, to be honest. But I think it kind of started before that. There's been shit going on for a while. Yeah,
I mean, it kind of started with people who were at student protests kind of just being swept up off the street, right? So we saw it start there. We saw it with people just being kind of black bagged by plainclothes officers, being pulled into vans from the sidewalk, things like that. People being stopped, crossing borders, whether it was, driving across or in an airport. People being stopped and detained, green card holders, people legally here have been detained. And now we see like Border Patrol and ICE agents going to places of businesses and waiting for folks to come out. They're standing outside schools. They're going to Home Depot to get day laborers, like people who are working and paying taxes. They're trying to grab. And like just recently, and this is what escalated things in Los Angeles, in addition to grabbing folks who are going through the proper channels and going to these immigration appointments to do all their paperwork and, tick the boxes. They're nabbing people leaving immigration appointments, just standing there waiting for folks. And then they detained one of the largest union leaders in the country who was born in Los Angeles, but is a brown person.
Yep.
And an organizer.
And it's so interesting to me. We did speak briefly last week. I mentioned about Stephen Miller. And he's basically dragging all the leadership from ICE into his office, basically, and saying, you're not fucking doing enough. They had a target at the beginning of this administration, which was at the end of January, of 1 million people being deported. And they'd sold it as being they're all going to be people that are dangerous criminals. They're going to get rid of 1 million people. Now, we all knew that was not possible. There are not 1 million dangerous criminals that are undocumented in America. And just to remind everybody that in 2024, Biden actually deported 700,000 undocumented immigrants that year. As I understand it, they've only reached 200,000 so far in terms of this administration. So they're so far behind what they were trying to do. And there's many reasons behind that. So basically, when Stephen Miller spoke to all of the leadership of ICE, he basically said to them, you pricks have got to get to 3,000 per day.
Julie.
3,000 per day. But he specifically said, you need to start going to Home Depot, you need to go into schools.
They weren't getting enough criminals because that was a made-up thing, and there weren't actually millions of them walking the street. So they didn't meet their numbers just out in the wild, like catching crimes.
And the reason that the Biden administration got so many is because they were focusing on the jails, right? They were going into the prisons and actually doing what I think a lot of Americans agree with, and that is if you're undocumented and you commit a crime, then we're going to move you you're going to be removed from the country. Yeah. That's how they did it. Now, basically, they're just going everywhere. Hospitals, Home Depot,
Schools.
schools, like
Yeah.
churches, it just doesn't matter.
And just a note on the 3,000 number, that would be record setting for ICE as an administration, like as an agency within the government. It is straight up an unattainable goal that encourages ICE agents to go after people that are not causing problems. And like you guys said, we were promised on the campaign trail, which we all called out, but we were promised on the campaign trail. Trump said he's going after the dangerous criminals first. Turns out there's not that many dangerous criminals and they're really hard to find, so we're going to get the day laborers from Home Depot.
I mean, here in Detroit, they just arrested a child who was driving to a class field trip.
Yeah.
He got pulled over and detained, and now they're sending him to Louisiana.
Yeah.
Not a dangerous criminal, a high school student driving to a class field trip.
I think I saw in LA they're offering, because school's about to end for like high schoolers and whatnot. I think they're offering like Zoom options for parents to attend graduation. Because they're grabbing people at
Yeah.
schools, they're grabbing people at like official meetings. It's crazy.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
I think what's really interesting about this, and I haven't heard too many people talking about it, like they've gone to LA. Now we understand that California has and LA in particular has a very large population. I think it's up to 25% of the population is immigrants. So,
Yeah.
And they have a heavy reliance on undocumented people because once again, the fucking help wanted sign is out by businesses basically wanting to bring in, cheap labor.
And
That's the reality, right?
The city's called Los Angeles.
It is.
It was founded by Spanish speakers. It's called Los Angeles.
All of the counties in California are named after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
San
You know-
Diego, there's no,
Yeah.
it's the whole thing. But I mean, it was obviously stolen from
Yeah.
Mexico to start with. Who actually stole it from the indigenous people? Anyway, there's a long history that California has. But I think what's really interesting is why have they gone to Los Angeles? Like, it's almost an authoritarian's wet dream. They're not going to Texas. Texas has the second largest population of undocumented people in America. Like I said, it's an authoritarian's wet dream. It's where the fight begins between the federal and the state. If you think about Trump, thinking about and there's lots of things behind this, but it's the fight that he's been looking for with three ingredients that he's wanted. A political rival, Gavin Newsom, right? He's been sparring with him for years in a deep blue state on an issue that he knows is popular with Americans, and that is immigration. He's forcing this into this whole narrative of immigration and immigrants. It's a foreign invasion of America. It's an issue that he knows he's going to get support on.
No, that's right. You just read his ingredients as outlined in Project 2025 on pages 555 and 556, where they specifically talk about weaponizing the National Guard against our own citizens and sending military people to domestic soil to quell civil unrest.
Yeah, they put that shit in writing a while ago. And just another note, like on the dynamic here, I was reading this morning that they were doing some immigration raids in, I think, Omaha, Nebraska. And there was a couple of businesses that were raided. Something like 80 people were arrested. And the people running the businesses are not being charged with any crimes.
Right.
But all the people that are undocumented working at the businesses will be put up for deportation.
And that is exactly how you would fix this problem. You would literally, if you started
Crack
charging
down
the
on the business
businesses,
owners, yeah.
put them all in jail for a
Yeah.
fucking year,
Yeah.
and then that would stop. It would stop completely. There is a help wanted sign in this country that's so huge in neon lights. That's why people cross the border. That's why they're coming in.
Yeah, we're punishing the people that are working at these businesses trying to make a life for themselves, but we're not punishing the businesses that are breaking the law and exploiting the labor of these people.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
They'll do anything. But I mean, I think if we just go back for a second and think about if you think about Trump's playbook and the, Project 2025 and those two pages that you mentioned, Gina, this is manufactured chaos.
Yeah.
Literally,
For sure.
he's like the arsonist that basically lit the fire and then fucking coming in and pretending to be the fireman to put it out.
So I
Yeah.
just want to say, if you go to right-wing media right now, a lot of them are playing video clips from 2020.
Ted Cruz posted a clip from 2020. Like what a senator posted a clip from the wrong era. Crazy.
Because a lot, if you are on social media all the time like us, you will see the creators out there in Los Angeles walking around being like, it is not unsafe here right now. There's very limited instances of things getting out of control. The mayor does not want you here. The governor does not want you here. And now they have more troops in LA than in Syria and Iraq. It's insane.
Crazy. It's crazy.
Manufacture the threat.
Yeah.
militarize the response, invent the chaos,
It's the
that's
playbook.
that's the event, invent the chaos, and then basically wave the flag and tell everybody we're under
Right.
threat.
Yeah.
Is this just preparation, do you feel?
It's total BS because do you remember during the insurrection on the United States Capitol, we tried to get the National Guard to go and they pretended like, oh, sorry, not here, call back for
You know,
like hours.
He claimed that he did not send the National Guard at that point because Nancy Pelosi hadn't requested it. Now, this whole thing, you guys are going to have to explain it to me because the National Guard is something I'm not particularly familiar with, but I understand it to be state-based
Yeah.
and
That's right.
only to be used by the governor unless there are exceptional circumstances. Am I right?
You are right. And the last time the National Guard went into a state without the governor requesting it was in 1965 when the Democratic president at the time sent National Guard to Alabama during desegregation because the Republican governor of Alabama did not want black children going to school with white children. And they were going to use the local police forces to stop this. So the National Guard was sent to protect school children going into schools and people in those communities trying to help the children.
And now they're being used to terrorize communities
now
and attack children. Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. And on the invent chaos part, just to contextualize this all again, these protests started, again, like last Friday, and were very peaceful to begin with. They weren't nearly as big as they are right now. And then ICE started instigating more violence by tear gassing protesters and flashbanging protesters. Like, that's
Yeah.
the reason this took off the way that it did.
It's like a known fact, right? When the military starts showing up and you get people in uniform carrying guns with like
They're occupying the city.
it makes the situation more tense. Just the sight of these people there, people get more tense. It didn't need to be.
It's like basically putting fuel on a fire. That's what
Yeah.
they've done. And it wasn't even a fire to start with. It might have been a slight, things happening. I mean, let's talk about the Waymos for a minute. I love myself a Waymo. But like if you're going to pick cars to firebomb, it's kind of like no one's in them.
Self-driving car.
They're self-driving cars and they're owned by huge corporations called Google. So it's like, okay, who is the real victim there? But anyway, yeah, I condemn completely any sort of violence and of course doing anything or
and,
vandalism.
Immigrants are always accused of taking people's jobs. Self-driving cars. That's taking a job away from a taxi driver.
That was the irony.
Yeah.
It was not lost on me. And I do love myself a Waymo, I have to admit it. But so, I mean, I think going back to, Gina, what you're talking about, the insurrection, January 6th, I think that is such, like the way that this is being portrayed, we can't, I don't want to skip over that. I don't want to skip over the fact that they were talking about January 6th basically as if it was some sort of a peaceful protest, tourists going into the fucking, it's just so bizarre when you basically put those two visions together.
Yeah.
And then he just literally came into office and pardoned people that had killed cops, beaten people, broken into Congress.
Yeah.
And here we are.
He pardoned the dude with the Camp Auschwitz hoodie on. And this is the party that cares about anti-Semitism.
He paid Ashley Babbitt's family $5 million. This is a woman who broke into the Capitol and was violently trying to get into places that were not public. I mean, we have videos of people beating police officers at the insurrection. Nothing's happened to these folks.
People were killed.
Yeah.
And somebody shat in the
Yeah.
lobby. So I just want to point that out. That just it's
yeah.
like people were killed there. I mean, up until the recording of this, obviously, thankfully, there's been no one's been killed in what's going on. But this is spreading elsewhere as well right now, which is what really fucking scares me. And I have to admit, I walked in here today feeling like someone had punched me in the gut. I've often wondered, in fact, no, that's a lie. I've never wondered because it never crossed my mind, how it would feel to be in the middle of an authoritarian takeover. Turns out numb, angry, and wondering why the fuck people are just wandering around like everything's fine. That's how I feel.
Yeah, it's a weird dynamic that's been emerging, especially like just on the January 6th stuff. We've had this concerted effort for years at this point to just assert that it was peaceful. Like you said, they were just like tourists or whatever. But then when something happens on the opposite end of the political spectrum, when it's people on the left that are angry about something, the Democrats or just liberals generally, or the liberal media even, doesn't like get behind the movement in the same way that Republicans after January
Right.
6th got behind it and just outright lied about it. And of course, lying's bad. I condemn lying and whatnot. But like, there's just such an imbalance when it comes to, I don't know, telling the truth about things that are happening in the real world that it makes it very hard to even contend with issues nowadays. Like the death of truth is a very real thing.
Didn't we just have an ABC news reporter like fired from the department just for saying like Stephen Miller like just like feeds off of being evil?
He
Which
was-
is like totally
truth.
factually
The truth.
accurate. Yes.
I thought I do think
He
perhaps,
tweeted this on his personal account. It's not like he cracked into abcnews.com and posted it.
and it was a
like,
beautiful tweet. And I have to assume that maybe he had a glass of something in one hand when he was tweeting it because it was perfect.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of bizarre.
And speaking of reporters, I mean, there was that one Australian reporter that was shot like point blank with a rubber bullet by police on camera. And they do it because they know they can get away with it.
It's so interesting because, of course, my phone blew up in about 2 seconds when that happened because it was all
Pat,
over.
we're keeping her safe. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
yeah. Poor Pat. Pat is panicking.
Yeah.
I will tell you that. Pat is panicking. Yeah, it was all over the Australian media. And it's so, I think it's kind of confronting. And I have to say, we already had an issue with tourism in this country. We already have we've already got Broke Girl Summer right
Yeah.
up our ass right now. So I'm so close to Broke Girl Summer. It's going to be even worse now. Like, honestly, tourism is going to be so impacted. And I don't think that he's thought through the economic issues. And I know that's sort of trivial when we're talking about the things that we're discussing, which is crazy. But if you're just looking at it from an economic perspective, this is supposed to be the party of economic exceptionalism, those that,
Fiscal
keep
responsibility.
fiscal responsibility, exactly. And here we are. They're literally driving tourism away. No one's going to come into this
Can we
country.
just point out that like the Hospitality Association and the Restaurant Association heavily fund the Republican Party, and like the members are gonna see their money just fly away,
Yeah.
like especially in big cities where you get a
Yeah.
lot of tourism, like New York City, Los Angeles,
Yeah.
like. The restaurants are empty there, like and what is normally like a very like normal New Yorkers leave the city because they know it's flooded with tourists for the entire summer, and it's not happening right now. The streets are empty,
and it's not going to happen. I can assure you, all of my friends in Australia and around the world are like, yeah, no, not this time. And the impact, like you said, it's going to impact the big businesses, but also the tiny mum and pop shops where
Yeah.
people shop.
I want the hotel chains to send a strongly worded email to Donald Trump, like.
No chance. No goddamn chance. And I mean, on fiscal responsibility, I saw somewhere, I think the estimate is that sending in like the military is going to cost like $134 million
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah.
I thought we were getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse, but instead we're spending like $100 million to send military against the civilian population. Doesn't make any damn sense.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. So, and, I mean, I know there has been some conversation around like the waving of flags and everything, and I just wanted to point out something. It sprung to my head yesterday when I was hearing people talk about this, upset about waving Mexican flags or whatever other flags they were waving. These people wave the fucking Confederate flag.
Yeah.
And I need to check with my fellow Americans to confirm that the Confederate flag is indeed not the American flag.
It's a terrorist state. Like they were terrorists.
They were traitors.
Traitors to the Union, yeah.
They were insurrectionists, traitors, and losers. So let's not forget the last part.
Oh, yeah.
They fucking lost.
Suckers and losers,
Yeah.
Gina. Suckers and losers.
Yeah,
Oh
no,
my
people
God.
upset by the waving of the Mexican flag. It doesn't really make any sense to me. Again, the city's called Los Angeles. There's a lot of immigrants that come in from Mexico and live in California, live in Los Angeles. It's not that big of a deal. I get like the optical argument that maybe we should be waving American flags, but I mean, at a time like this, we're really going to be talking about optics when people are getting black bag grabbed off the street.
Yeah.
It's a waste of time, in my opinion.
That it certainly is. How are our Democrats doing at the moment? How's the
Yeah.
response?
So
Anyone got
glad
some
you
thoughts?
asked, Julie. So glad you asked,
Yeah.
because while all of this is happening in LA, and then we have solidarity protests popping up in New York City, Boston, Chicago, like Detroit had one. We had a very interesting vote the other day, like just this week. What with this landscape in this current timeline, there was a vote, a 3-part resolution in the House. All the Congress members decided to get together, and the Republicans wrote this and kind of sold it as a resolution to condemn anti-Semitism after the terrible attacks in Boulder, Colorado. Now, great, we all need to condemn anti-Semitism. Bigotry is not okay with anyone, not anyone here, not anyone, like that is, yes, please, I want my congressperson to sign that resolution condemning anti-Semitism. What they also did in the parts 2 and 3 of the resolution, which I want to be very clear, you signed on to each part separately, so you could sign on to one and not to the other. Well, we had 75 Democrats join the second part of the resolution that praised ICE and called for collaboration of local law enforcement with Border Patrol and ICE, okay? 75 Democrats joined onto this, which is less than half of the, House congressional Dems. So I just want to point that out. It's not as though they didn't read it, because most of them understood the second part and did not sign on. But here in Michigan, we had 3 Democrats sign on. Haley Stevens signed on to praise ICE. Kristen McDonald-Rivet signed on to praise ICE. And Sri Thandar signed on to praise ICE.
Crazy. And I want to just read the provisions so everybody knows exactly how crazy this is here. And again, like you said, it's short. It's a resolution. It's 1 page long. They easily could have read it. Number 2 is affirms that free and open communication between state and local law enforcement and their federal counterparts remains the bedrock of public safety and is necessary in preventing terrorist attacks. And then number 3 is expresses gratitude to law enforcement officers, including ICE personnel, for protecting the homeland. That is psychotic for any Democrat to sign on to.
It's some real Nazi shit. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah. In this environment, for the Democrats to sign on to this, as ICE has been grabbing people from parking lots, from schools and whatnot, as protests are happening right now, and again, the military is being deployed against civilian populations, I can't imagine why they would have thought this would be a good idea.
Okay, so Gina and I spent some time discussing this last night, because I think that Distill Social, I think we actually broke the news last night of this, and it was controversy. There was a lot of controversy around it, right?
Yes and no. So, I mean, I think most people read it, understood immediately, and were supportive of us calling out the Democrats who signed on to the portion praising ICE. There were a few isolated incidents of people getting all twisted about it.
Yeah. So I think what is so interesting, I think it's worth having a little bit of a conversation about this, because I have a feeling that I'm going to go back to the discussions and the interviews that we did as Distill Social last year at Trump rallies, and talking just the feeling that I get from Americans generally. I mentioned earlier, I don't think immigration is these types of things in terms of undocumented people. I don't think that the Democrats think this is a losing issue. They think there is something out there, because Biden actually called out illegal immigrants last year,
he did.
over a year ago, and that's where it all started. So I look at it from a different perspective, I suppose. I do feel at the MAGA rallies last year, we talked to people about their thoughts and feelings about Trump openly saying he wants to deport 1 million people. And the people that we spoke to were all very, well, I know immigrants and I'm okay with the good ones, right? That was very much their feeling. I'm okay with the good ones, but we do need to get rid of the bad ones. That was kind of like the conversation we had. And I feel like I have similar conversations with Democrats. Like there's definitely a level at which, so I wonder whether Haley, McDonald-Rivet, Sri, whether or not they're all like, either they didn't read the fucking bill, or at the end of the day, they're hedging their bets. They think that they've got enough support, enough people in Michigan want to get rid of immigrants, that they think that this is a winning issue. Remember, Haley Stevens is actually running for US Senate, so this has to be a calculated decision, unless she's
Yeah.
I'm sure she's super in tune to every move she's making right now. So
She got her finger on the pulse for sure.
she mentally decided, yes, I will praise ICE, because I know hopefully the people I'm voting for will be okay with this.
Yeah.
Or hopefully the people voting for me feel the same way.
The trouble, I think, and I guess a lot of Democrats just haven't realized this yet, is that Trump is strong on immigration because it's like the thing he talks about all the time, and he is pushed into the media for like, I mean, since 2016 at this point, pushed this idea that there's like an invasion happening, there's a bunch of criminals coming over. We've seen tons of different variations of this. And if Democrats are going to be conservative on the issue of immigration, they're not going to win the people that think like a white genocide is happening in the United States. They're not going to win the people over that think that there are literally gangs coming in to like kill all the white women in, I don't know, Iowa or something like that. You're not going to out conservative Trump on this issue. So it's a waste of time. I think it's a bad idea. And I think Democrats have forgotten or maybe just not reckoned with the fact that their party has been complicit in the narrative getting to this point. Of course, we had Barack Obama that continued to fund ICE more and more over his tenure for his 8 years. Joe Biden continued a lot of Trump-era policies. And over the course of that time period, we saw public opinion with Democrats basically flip when it comes to acceptance towards immigrants. So Democrats have played a role in getting us to this point, and them just being conservative on the issue, as they have been for years, isn't going to be what gets us out of it.
So I think also the thing to maintain, it's in the back of my mind, and I'm interested to know if you guys are going down this dark hole with me or not. I don't know. This is like I'm taking a straw poll here. But I feel like this is just the beginning, and this is a test. Trump is literally testing everything right now as to how far he can push, because it's illegal what he's doing, right? Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, is actually suing Trump for what he's done in terms of coming in and bringing the National Guard in. So it's illegal what he's doing. I feel like he's pushing so far to a point and creating this chaos to a point where, let's say in 2026, so we're not that far away from the midterms, right? We're in June 2025 right now. In 2026, he's practiced so much and pushed the country so far and created so much chaos that he'll turn around and basically say, oh, we're under attack, we can't have an election.
Yeah.
Chaos, we're being invaded, this is all happening. I don't know. Am I the only one going to that place?
That's like third world coup 101 right there.
So am I the only one going to that place in my mind?
Developing nation coup
I was gonna
shit
say,
101.
Stop dissing my third worlds. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's about like 50-50 if that happens at this point. And I don't know if you guys share this opinion, but I have been thinking that it's not really Trump calling any of the shots nowadays. Like, he's doing tariff stuff, but I think on the immigration stuff, it's mostly Stephen Miller that's orchestrating all of this. Trump obviously hates immigrants too, but Stephen Miller's got like an ideological commitment to like exterminating people, if we want to use that
I'm
language.
going to double down on the guy from ABC. This is literally what feeds Stephen Miller's soul, like cruelty towards immigrants. I mean, you're right, 100%. This was all written out in Project 2025. Like
900-page document. We had it for like a year. We knew exactly what was coming, what they wanted to do.
And Stephen Miller is sitting there like Mr. Burns, like, ha, 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 just like frothing at the mouth.
Yeah, he gets off
happen.
on this shit. It is disgusting. He's an evil person.
Anyway, it's frightening. And you think about Stephen Miller and you think about, is it now Voigt, Russell Voigt or Vought or whatever, that's now come in and replaced Musk? And
Russ Vought, the OMB,
yeah. So, I mean, wasn't he involved in Project 2025 as well?
Yeah,
Was
he
one
was
of the
one of the
architects.
authors.
Yeah. So, I'm just sitting here and my brain's tying everything together here. So it's like, oh, God.
Whiteboard's getting a little full right now.
Yeah, it sure is. It sure is.
So, like, I think the big question is, what are we going to do about it? And I think it's really important, as we like have no kings, the big national protest, just, a few short days away. The main thing I want to get across to everybody is this is the perfect time to show up and show peaceful resistance, because they are looking for any reason to send more military and more National Guard. And we need to get in front of that and just turn up in the numbers. Like, we need to hit that 3% of the population. Back in April for Hands Off, I think we hit about 2% of the entire country's population, which is millions of people. Once you hit 3.5, then you get real change starts happening, because they can't, the resistance has grown too big to ignore.
That is the point, right? Too big to ignore. Because one of the things, a lot of the feedback I got when I was back, because I was in Australia during during those protests, and they barely made the news because mainstream media have not been covering this stuff. Like, they really haven't been. I saw a stat the other day, at a town hall where they were saying the number of protests have well out.
Outpaced his first term.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't know that watching the news, the normal news.
No.
You just can't see that. So I think that's the point, right? If we need to get to 3.5% of Americans out on the street, I think the thing to remind everybody, if people are scared, I think everyone needs to use if you're a citizen, if you're a white person,
Big on that.
that's it. That's
Get
all you
out
need.
there.
Tick, tick. If you're not a citizen and you're not a white person, maybe protect yourself. Contemplate how safe it is for you to go out there. But I think that's the message. What else do they need to do, Gina? Because my phone has been very busy in the last few days with friends of mine asking me where they should go and what they should do.
Yeah. So I just want to let everyone know, if you go to our last Substack, and it's also on all of our socials, we posted an article about No Kings that includes a spreadsheet of all 70 statewide No Kings events. So you can find the one closest to your house to make sure you get out there. Number one, stay peaceful. There may be agitators in the crowd. Ignore them. Stay away. Number two, leave your phone at home. Organizers are going to hate me for saying this. Don't sign up online anywhere. Just show up. Leave no trail. I'm sorry, guys who want to collect emails. People don't sign up. Just show up.
It's the state of the world, yeah.
I know we need to know how many people are there, and there will be thousands at the bigger protests, like in Detroit and Grand Rapids and Ferndale and Lansing, but we just need you to come out, leave the kids at home. This is not a family outing. I know some of these protests are going to have, fairs and bounce houses. No, that's not what this is about. Leave the kids at home, and just be chill. That's what it's about. Make sure your voice is heard. Be prepared. Drink lots of water and leave the phones at home.
Yeah, it's a visual that we're after, right?
Right.
It's all about the visual. It's all about being able to, cameras to be able to. We think back to the Women's March.
If
all that kind of
possible,
stuff.
go to the biggest protest
Yes.
near you. It's great that some groups are splintering off and there'll be 100 people here and 100 people there, but we want thousands out in one place, so it can't be ignored. You know, that drone footage you see online, that's what we're going for. It's impact, right? So,
And that's all the media care about. They just
Yeah.
care about the optics at the end of the day.
Yeah, and especially if you're a white guy like me, get out there. And big on the nonviolent part. And it might be the case that police or ICE show up and start instigating violence. It might be the feds or somebody that do it first. But even if that's the case, that will further just show the injustice of what they're doing. So stay peaceful.
Absolutely. So, Gina, it's not been all we've had a little bit of fun in the last few days. Can we talk about what we did on the weekend?
yes, because, it can't all be heavy all the time. So Julie and I went to the Michigan Democratic Party Legacy Dinner last Saturday night. J.B. Pritzker was the keynote speaker. This was the point of this dinner every year is it's the one main fundraiser for the Michigan Democratic Party. So high ticket prices. So this is kind of how they fill their coffers for the year to come. Great, get that. J.B. Pritzker sold tickets. He did what he was supposed to do. I found it really funny that we're currently giving away free stickers that say no oligarchs. And I'm there taking selfies with the billionaire. I don't know.
The irony was not lost on me, Gina.
Take the allies where you can find them. You know
Lots
what I mean?
of non sequiturs here. I'm sorry.
Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah, I'm better to acknowledge the inconsistency than pretend they don't exist, right?
Yeah.
It is what it is.
That's right.
What are you going to do?
Julie did not eat at this
No,
one,
no.
so there were no potty issues following the evening.
I survived.
Yes, we all did. We only got one drink ticket, which was a little bit of a bummer.
I do want to talk about the drinks because it's a very
Okay.
important issue for me. Because yes, we only got one drink ticket, but then basically what the Democrats do, and this is just a personal ick that I have, and that is that they literally shut down the bars when the speeches are on. Now, Democrats have this thing where there's fucking 50, everybody speaks. I was
Yeah.
waiting for to be handed the microphone.
Yeah.
They go around there's 15,000 speakers. No drinks, people, no drinks. But when I did go up to get a drink, it was very interesting. And this is at a Marriott hotel, right? Mm-hmm. I had to buy my drink ticket. So I handed over my credit card, paid for it, and I was writing in the tip. And the woman that was serving me said, no, don't leave a tip. And I said, why not? And she said, well, we've just been told if the tip isn't in cash, we're not going to get it. So don't leave a tip. And I'm like, huh? Who told you that?
What?
The bosses, like she said. I'm like, holy,
Wow.
that was mind-blowing to me.
So while you say that, I just want to point out real quick that the whole no tax on tips bullshit in the big beautiful bill, it's a total fucking farce because it doesn't include credit card charge tips like you were about to
my
leave.
God.
Only tax, only like cash tips.
That's right.
Which most people don't leave cash anymore.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to my previous life. I once had a business which had a lot of cash in it. People don't pay tax on cash generally anyway. You fucking get it and you spend it. Sorry, people.
No, and you know, the people, like the woman working at the diner, making $4 an hour, and maybe somebody drinks a cup, goes in, has a cup of coffee, and leaves $1 or $2. She's not earning enough money
Nope,
to hit
nope.
to that bottom tax burden anyway. Like, it's just fucking bullshit. And do I talk about the person who voted against raising that minimum wage and how
Please. It's like our hobby horse. I feel like for the rest of my life, I'm going to be talking about this. Like there will be not 1 year of my life will
So
go
Senator
past.
Dana Polhanke was there. For those of us new to the party, Senator Dana Polhanke voted against raising the tipped minimum wage. She's a Democrat in the state Senate, and she posted on her Facebook page that she had just voted to raise the wages by 50%. And when I took a screenshot and wrote liar and posted it on Twitter and explained to everybody that in fact her vote was to gut the Michigan Supreme Court ruling that was raising wages, she voted to gut it by 50%. She doxed us. And we saw her on Saturday night.
It was an interesting night. I just want to give us a bit of a shout out because the Lieutenant Governor came up to me and said, "Here's my media mogul." So we've actually been.
We made it, folks.
Yeah, we made it,
We're in the big
folks. You know,
leagues now.
regardless of the fact that podcasting don't pay, the Lieutenant
had
Governor thinks that
3 people come up to me and ask to be on our podcast that night.
Yeah, that'll be a hard no. Anyway.
3 rejections there.
Yeah, I know.
It was more of a kind of like, oh yeah, we'll talk situation.
Get your people to speak to my people.
Yeah, one of those.
Well, if they're listening now, they'll know.
So the other thing that happened that night was Julie ended up ditching me and leaving me to sit at the table to listen to the speeches while she went to another bar in another location.
That didn't turn off the bar every time there were speeches. I just want to point out you cannot do that and expect me to sit there and listen stone cold sober.
No, fair play, Julie.
Thank you.
Fair play.
Yeah, no, got to respect that. Gina was working. Julie was having fun.
Yeah, that's
It's
it.
understandable.
That's it.
Seems like a tough event to just sit there sober, so I understand.
The weird thing about the speeches, and this is with the exception of J.B. Pritzker, because he very much met the moment by talking about Trump and leaning into how we need to be fighting fascism and authoritarianism right now. And I do thank him for kind of like recognizing where we are in, you know, Trump 2.0 2025. Not a single other speech like even brought it up. It was all like, we're Democrats, we're awesome, we're the strongest we've ever been. And then people like listing off achievements we made a couple years back when we had, you know, the trifecta and passed like 3 good pieces of legislation in 2 years. I don't want to point out the fact that we had the opportunity to pass things like universal health care for Michigan and making sure undocumented people could drive to work without getting arrested and, you know, other things like that. But that's a topic for another time. So it was very much cheerleading, like, yay, we got reproductive freedom here. Okay, that was the people that did that. That was not you all.
Yeah.
That was the people.
That was
You know,
us.
Yeah.
Fully a
That
ballot
was us.
initiative, yeah. What are you talking about?
was
We
us.
happy clapped about, you know, expanding the civil rights bill. Yes, we needed to do that. Do we need to be clapping and patting ourselves on the back a few years later, like while troops are marching into Los Angeles? Probably not.
We have we are looking down the barrel right now of an authoritarian takeover.
Yeah.
And we're talking about things we did 2 or 3 years ago. Doesn't matter what you did then, right now. It matters what you do now. Where are the who was impeaching this dude? There needs to be impeachment articles introduced every day. Every fucking day. Someone needs to be doing something. We need to start, like, they were all chanting, lock her up, like, 10 years ago.
We need to be flooding their zone.
Exactly. With lock him up. He is literally, we keep suing him. We keep using the law, which is fine, but he owns that law. Like,
Death by
the
a
legal
thousand paper
system.
cuts is not going to cut it right now. Like, it's not.
And
And not a single speech recognized any of that, Julie. It was all like, we're so strong right now. And it's like, who? Like, we have a 28% approval rating within our
Yeah.
party. Like, we can't agree that, centrism isn't great because people shouldn't be that excited about their proximity to the fascists. Like, come on, move to the left, people. Like, it's insane. And like I said, only J.B. Pritzker talked about Trump and where we are now and how we need to fight against it. Like, nobody else really did. The governor
Yeah.
didn't.
well, maybe
Those old ladies collecting a trophy for something certainly didn't.
I wonder now if the reason that I didn't get a diarrhea.
Sorry, old ladies. I'm sure you did something good. I don't know.
I wonder now if the reason I didn't get diarrhea was not because I didn't eat the food, but maybe because I didn't come and listen to all the speeches. Maybe that was my saving grace.
No,
but yeah,
your stomach would have turned.
yeah. I mean, I just want to point out, the volunteers up there, they do an amazing job, and I want to shout out to all of them. But at this time, we need a leader. We need a leader of the Democratic Party. We just need anyone. I don't fucking care who it is to sit there. I was talking on the weekend to somebody who was reminding me about FDR, used to have his fireside chats. We need someone basically obviously no one's sitting by the fireside. It's summer and we don't need that. We need someone on YouTube, on every social media, basically as a leader, pointing out what is going on and what they would do as a leader, as the next president of the United States to fix this shit. Talking about locking him up, talking about doing all of these things that have to be done. I myself, this is a personal plea, I need someone to basically stand up there and look the fuck like they give a shit about what's happening to us right now.
Yeah.
And what's happening to this country, and to just pretend. We need an ounce of hope. That's how I feel about it. Just an ounce of
Not
fucking
even like
hope.
an ounce of hope, but there was zero recognition that anything is happening. Like, we should have had one of the VA union leaders up on there giving a speech. That's who we need to hear from right now. The people who are currently being harmed by this administration. None of that. Like, it was just like, oh, yay to the congressional district captains who, I don't know. Like, it was like...
Yeah.
And all that's valid, right? Do that. You can do that. You can thank
Yes.
your volunteers because that's really hard work, and we know that because we've
And
been
that's
doing it for
literally
years.
the only recognition they get. These people don't get paid, and they do
Correct.
spend a lot of their time working for free.
So I absolutely applaud
Put them
that.
in the book, give them a page or two, yes.
But then you need to stand up and basically tell us, just give it just some hope. I'm just looking for somebody.
It is interesting to me that with all the illegal shit that the Trump administration's been doing, there hasn't been a single Democrat, like really anywhere at all, that has said, like, if you elect me, I'm going to arrest these people.
Yeah.
Like, not a single, and like they are committing obviously illegal acts. Even if you don't come out and say, like, I'm going to put Trump in the Hague, there is a number of people in his administration that are doing outwardly illegal and cruel and inhumane things that you could get them on. And it's crazy how that's not a part of the message at all, because that seems immediately popular.
We couldn't even get anyone on insurrection.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. Trump is
If
out
Merrick
there
Garland
being
was
like,
serious,
arrest Gavin Newsom, and he's like, come get me.
We literally want due process. That's all we want. But someone needs to start talking about it. We can't just be continually saying, oh, the courts will take care of it. Like, someone needs to start talking about what they will do. Like I said, we just need a little bit of hope.
At the very least, it's like violations of the Eighth Amendment, like cruel and unusual punishment, sending people that aren't from a country to a different country that they've never been to, that they've never lived in. Like, if that's not a violation of human rights, then
Without due process.
Without due process,
Their time
Just
in
shipping
court.
them
So
off.
I say to people all the time, it's like, you might have a problem with undocumented people. You may have that problem. But everyone deserves their time to be able to prove that they're not guilty of whatever you are. It's basically innocent until proven guilty. But at the moment, it's guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah. And that's not even like a hoity-toity progressive idea. The Supreme Court has historically said that undocumented immigrants get due process.
Of course they do.
Yeah. Like it's a human
A
right. It
human
says
right,
persons in
exactly.
the Constitution. Yeah.
Isn't it like in the Pledge of Allegiance, like with liberty and justice for all? I don't know. Didn't we like have to say that every day for like 12 years straight growing up?
Yeah, I mean, people like Stephen Miller will say when it says liberty and justice for all, it means all people within the country. And suddenly, our principles that were somehow ordained by God apply only to people that live within the boundaries that we drew on a map. So,
Which they all do while standing there fucking clutching their huge cross around their neck. But anyway,
I think we got to bring the Hiddo Boys to the next MDP dinner. What do you got? What do you say, Jeremy?
Gina, do
I
you
don't know
not
how
like
I
them?
would.
If Julie can get extra drink tickets.
I don't know. I might fall like into a psychosis. I don't know how I would compartmentalize being there. That sounds rough.
I feel like we'd end up with a really, really packed bar outside, Gina. I feel like
Yeah, I don't know how long I would last in that room. I don't know if I could be held accountable for my actions. I don't know. It could be bad for me personally. Like legally, it could be bad.
All right. Well, we don't want to do any crime. But it was like, I do have to say, everybody looked good. Everyone was very dressed up. And, you know, it's funny because you usually see a lot of these people like out on the street with a protest tee on, or like people in their campaign tees. And to see like folks like actually in nice suits and dresses was nice for once.
it's nice. We even look nice.
We
for a
did.
night.
You know what?
There you
I'll
go.
pop a photo of Julie and I all cleaned up into the Instagram stories if you guys, if
Boom.
you don't
Editor,
believe us.
put it over the screen right now. More work for Gage in post. It's up right now. You can see it.
We cleaned up pretty well, I would
Yeah.
say. It was a nice night just to be out with the Distill crew and meet some other, like, there were other like-minded people that we brought into our little table circle in the bar on the patio afterwards.
That's
so
right.
that was nice.
We had our own party out on the
We
patio.
had the after party.
We did.
Yeah.
The way it should be.
It was it was fun, but it's always nice. I mean, I think the nice part about that is community, and I do want to point out that right now everyone is looking for community. It's so nice to be around like-minded
It was
people.
community for people who could afford tickets that started at $250 and went up
Yeah.
from there.
I just want to point out that someone shouted us. We didn't pay for them ourselves. I just want to point that out, Gina, before everyone gets on our ass. 'Cause
Somebody
podcasting doesn't pay.
Somebody did pay for our tickets. It wasn't us, but like this was a
Yeah, swanky.
very much like the inner sanctum crowd, and then people who do a lot of good work year round
Yep.
were likely gifted tickets,
Yeah.
like leftover tickets and stuff. So honestly, if you're a volunteer for the Democratic Party and you're working like, 20-40 hours a week for free, you got a ticket to this and you got a chance to
Yeah.
hobnob with elected officials.
Yeah, and even if you're not like a volunteer and you go to these kinds of events, I do think there's value in attending these events and then sharing how much you hate the people that were there. I think it's a good thing to do. You got to get inside these rooms. Sometimes you got to play the game. It's just how it goes.
Yeah, well, it was the cocktail party pre-event was where it was at, right?
There you
So, if you got a certain, and this is another funny thing, like Democrats are all like equality, right? No, there were like different levels you could buy
course there
at,
were. Of course
and then
there
you
were.
got different color wristbands for each level, right? So. We were pink level, and we had Jeremy's eyes are rolling.
Party is so
into the back.
goddamn corny. That's the worst offense in my
But I'm
opinion.
gonna say this was a fundraiser. The point of it was successful in what it was supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
So they got the money. We went to the cocktail party with all of the state reps and the state senators. Another opportunity to stick it to Dana Polhanke, and she remained unscathed there too because
We did-
that
'cause
dish
we-
is going to be served cold at some point.
Lucked out. Man.
But no, I mean, it was a very good chance for you to get somebody's ear for a minute or two that otherwise you wouldn't have been able to have,
Yeah.
access to if you could afford it.
Yeah, of course. That's always the disclaimer. Yeah.
Anyway, so what can we just talk for a minute about what's going to give you joy this next few days, Gina? Are you going to find any joy? I see that your ducks are they're really back. The ducks are really back.
Yeah, so I have a duck couple that lives in my backyard. They fly in at the end of every spring and they hang out and they shit all over the side of my pool and they go swimming. And they stay all summer and then they fuck back off in the fall. I don't know where they go, but they're really cute. Phineas and Phoebe, we've named them. And I do get joy when I look out my back patio and I see them like just hanging out there. So that plus the fact that school is over and I don't have to stop what I'm doing at 2:30 every afternoon and go get my children.
Now you can work more.
Yeah.
Joy.
No, it's super annoying to just have to like stop what you're doing in the middle of the day. And it takes like every mom out there is going to understand sitting in the carpool lane at school every afternoon is a high stress situation.
For sure, yeah.
Just the maneuvering and getting in and people not moving up fast enough and just inching forward.
Everyone's first day driving. Yeah. Everyone's first day driving. Yeah.
So none of that. None of that plus the ducks equals a happy Gina.
Jeremy?
I'm still riding high because I went to the Kendrick Lamar SZA concert yesterday in Ford Field. It was really nice. Talk about that juxtaposition of fascist takeover and then trying to have fun out on the town at night. But no, that was great. It was a good time good chance to get away and not focus on the world falling apart. So
That's great. I intend to do a lot of day drinking. The weather is nice. Finally, I think patio season might be here. So we will be able to go and sit outside. At my age, day drinking is the safest way to do it. Otherwise, nighttime, too many hangovers. So so I'm going to embrace that this weekend. And I'm very interested to see what happens in terms of the numbers that turn out for No King's Day. Yeah. I know what I won't be watching. I won't be watching that fucking parade in DC.
I forgot
Literally, here's the thing. I think
big news on that.
What?
This morning, Don Lemon reported that the Trump administration ordered 1,400 costumes for the parade because they want to do like a over the time, like basically like a historical montage of like what early military costumes and uniforms looked like all through present time. So in addition to that, whatever that original like $45 million price tag it is for a military parade for a draft dodger, it's going up and up and up as he's adding all this pageantry to it. It's like, it's fucking insane.
Man, we haven't raised the minimum wage in like 15 years. And we're doing a military parade. We're spending millions and millions, destroying DC's roads, by the way, with all these tanks.
Yeah.
We're spending millions on a military parade.
He tried to do this in his first administration, and the local like government was like, you can't drive tanks down the street, it'll rip it up. And he was like, all right, I won't do that then, and kind of like backed off the whole thing. Now it's like balls to the walls, like fuck it. Like
and it's such a shame that his birthday is just on Flag Day. He keeps getting away with it. Such a shame.
Do we celebrate Bastille Day this year instead?
I'm not against that. I'm not against
we might
that.
have our own Bastille Day pretty soon.
Oh, Lord.
Well, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for joining us today,
Of course.
Jeremy.
Thank you for having me.
It was. It's always fun to get a youthful young man.
I do what I can.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to know what young white men want, they can go and ask Jeremy on Hiddo.
Two unique and exceptional young white men over on Head in the Office.
That's right. Exactly.
I also want to tell everybody, if you would like myself or Julie to go to an event and come back and report about it on the podcast, slip the flyer into our DMs. We'll be picking out things to go to all summer long.
That's right. That's going to be us all summer. So thank you very much. Don't forget, we are now on YouTube. So Point of Disorder. You can actually check us out on YouTube. We have to have more than just my mum and my husband watching us. So if we could get a few more likes and follows on YouTube, that would be fantastic.
We do have all new socials for Point of Disorder where you can watch video clips now. So you can go to Point of Disorder on Instagram or TikTok or, like Julie said, on YouTube. So check us out now that we're in video, and share the clips with your friends.
And I have to say that the boys from Hiddo have just done up our studio, so you
Yeah.
can see how fancy it looks. I need to do a shout out to them because they spent all day yesterday doing that. So
Building the set.
Yeah,
Thank you
blue
guys.
Collar work. That's what
right.
podcasting is.
Exactly. So they spent a lot of time and energy doing that. So check it out on YouTube. Follow us on all the socials for Point of Disorder and Distill Social. I think that's a wrap, and we'll see you next Thursday.
And that's a wrap on today's episode of Point of Disorder. We'd like to extend a huge thank you to everyone who listened today. And if you like us, give us a like, a subscribe, or a review on any place you get your podcasts. And don't forget to follow us on social media at Distill Social and at The Guerrilla Politic. This is the Point of Disorder podcast, signing off. Stay sharp, stay progressive, and above all, stay tuned.